Hi there. This is Adrienne Prince with Team Gaia. We're going to try again. This is our special emergency 9/11 of 2014 tutorial to get you empowered as a shifter as soon as possible. These are tools that I've developed and were given to me through special means, and I feel that they are our new universal tools for pushback against basically the New World Order. These, as with all your thought forms, they take a life of their own. Very powerful tools for rewriting the matrix are ones that you should definitely only use with great sense of responsibility. Don't use them frivolously, only when you feel that you have the facts and that you're ready to anchor your preferred reality as something that is a keeper. Okay, so I don't know if I told you, my name is Adrienne Prince. I grew up in America. I grew up in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I noticed I grew up in the 70s. I'm actually going to be 49 next week. And I grew up in the 1970s, which was a time of some pretty turbulent change. The culture was very much aware that it was going to be self-evolving, which is a great thing to realize, you know, that you're not just walking in cultural footsteps, that you're not just playing out a preset agenda, but that we started to awaken to the fact that we had a say in how our culture evolved. So it was a very exciting time to grow up. So around 1973 was when Watergate came about. Within about a year, we would finally be out of Vietnam. And it was also the year that I was in third grade. Ms. Magazine was launching. That's MS, an invention of Gloria Steinem, a feminist magazine for women. And it was seen as this major shot across the bow of the patriarchy, because it was going to, it was asserting crazy things like that women had the right to their own appellation, you know, Ms. as opposed to Miss or Mrs., and that this was going to ruin marriage, sex, and relationships between the sexes forever. And they thought it was like the cultural equivalent of emasculating every man in America. Anyway, they would ask the kids, you know, what to weigh in on social issues. And there I was, about 7 or 8 years old, and they would ask us questions like, do you think that women should be allowed to wear pants in the workplace? And of course, if you think back, that's kind of such an absurd question. First of all, because women pretty much wear whatever they want these days. But that wasn't the case. Or the idea that women should be allowed X, Y, or Z in the first place shows you exactly how much work we had in front of us. So anyway, I was taught that what we thought and what we felt about the current events somehow mysteriously affected them. Now I'm going to tell you, I've got allergies. I'm going to be wiping my nose. I'm in a sort of a state of emotional agitation, but I knew I needed to get this recording out because I want to empower you guys with the shifting tools as soon as possible. So at that time, that so much was going on in the outer culture was also a time at which, in my dreams, I found myself in a classroom that was pretty much what you could say facilitated by angels. I swear to you, I would find myself during my dreams sitting in circle with other children while some dude or woman in a long white gown and with long hair, often blonde, was teaching us things, and we were taking classes. And in these classes, what's really, really interesting is that the curriculum pretty much centered about how to take care of ourselves, how to take care of the planet, and tools for becoming social change agents. And it wasn't until all these years later that I really could think back on how remarkable that was. They weren't teaching us how to be more holy, how to stop sinning. You know, they were actually teaching us about the planet, how special and sacred it was, learning to take care of it with our hands and our energy and our intentions, and empowering ourselves from the heart to become the kind of people who could create pushback. Now, that's the happy, shiny side of my spiritual education on the inner. what on the outer, I was part of a metaphysical and yoga family, but I still didn't feel safe talking about my memories of things about like Atlantis or past lives. A lot of the material that I was digging up, if you've ever done past life reversion, a lot of the material I was digging up was actually pretty traumatic, and I didn't feel safe speaking with anyone about it. So the not so happy and shiny part of my spiritual education on the inner planes came in the form of these downloads that during movies. I would go to the theater and see a movie, and yes, I know that there are hypnotic embedded inductions, but within movies, especially Disney films, but this seemed to go even beyond it. Now I started to, so I started to jack in on conversations, and yeah, I was having voices in my head, but I didn't understand what they were saying, so it doesn't count because they were real. Anyway, it's only taken me until I'm 49 to even really dig this stuff up. I always sort of buried it in the back and went, well, that was really interesting. I have no idea what to do with it. But as I see that the levers of power are being more and more removed from the average person's control as the corporate ownership of government and the military arm of imperialism globalizes and becomes more and more brutal, I felt it was time to dig up those really important tools and re-empower each and every one of us to the best of my ability. Hey, whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, you deserve to know about these tools and to start to put these certain things into practice. So what I would get during the movies was that there was actually something really big going on, kind of bad, what I would call a galactic war. What was being portrayed to me, to us, to whoever else was receiving these downloads, because it sounded like a group transmission that people were receiving on the subconscious. I just happened to be noticing it a lot as a kid. Was that there was a very virulent form of fascism, totalitarianism, and we could call that like a lost thought form or an orphan soul that was taking over the planet. And if it tipped Earth toward the totalitarianism, it would tip the entire balance of the galaxy and all the galaxies that our galaxy is connected to. That Earth was hanging in the balance, and that we needed to be aware of the need to do pushback against fascism. So this was the kind of material that is so complicated to a kid that it took me years and years of just digesting it and really looking at how global politics works. What is the story that we tell ourselves? And by we, I mean the mainstream media. What is the story that American culture and world cultures, Western cultures, Eastern cultures, first, second, third world cultures tell themselves? What are the stories that we tell ourselves about what's going on the planet? And as I started to peel back the layers of the ideological onion, I realized more and more that everything really came down to empire, profits, corporations, and military force to institute these changes. And so even though I didn't know, I became an activist, and my priority became to do some pushback. But I wanted to know exactly how can we do the deepest, most effective pushback, because I noticed that sometimes a social movement will take root and become a fact, and sometimes it will wash like river water. It'll just wash. And as I watched our collective will over the past decades being usurped again and again by corporatism, I've just come to the conclusion that I really need to, I needed to develop these tools and figure out a way to talk about them and figure out a way to share them with you. So my big pivotal turning point in realizing that the shifting tools actually work, there were two of them, but the one that I talk about the most and the one I'll talk about right now and maybe I'll dig the other one up too. This is like my Princess Leia transmission. This is my message to the world. Here are your tools. This may be the only time I get to tell you these things. Hopefully not. I need to give you these tools now so that you can use them. I'm a little emotional today. Because I've seen our will usurped so many times, and it often feels like it's sort of a now or never situation. And so today was the day I needed to talk to you and give you all the tools that I had so that you can use them. You can learn more at my YouTube channel and on my website. Everything is branded with Team Gaia, team-gaia.com. So those are the places that you can go to develop this information for yourself more. And hopefully, by me spitting all this out and getting you equipped right here, right now with the tools to help shift the planet, we'll have all long, happy, and prosperous lives. So let's anchor that as our intention. So what I noticed, the difference between social movements that take and social movements that don't take, is that there was a certain level on our beings at which it was able to anchor, and all of the other possibilities became eliminated or collapsed, and that became the one dominant worldview, and these things could happen in a flash. So the way that social evolution seems to work is that we kind of mosey along. Life works for some and it doesn't work for others, and we've always had this vast working class and underclass, and it's usually the aristocracy who tell the story of what's going on in the culture. But as we've become more and more populist, and of course as more and more people have slid in their standard of living, and as our compassion has grown to become more global in our heart outlook too, just as the corporations have globalized, we have also become more like world thinkers, which was an angelic mandate and something that we've been doing. Now I have to let you know something. I am a live-in caregiver for a 94-year-old, and she is not doing well. She has got serious dementia, and she's feeling a lot of the anxiety and the stress right now. So she may come in, she may call me out, so this may be paused. Now, I got to tell you, did you know that these Google Hangouts on air can last 8 hours? I will not put you through that, I promise. But if I'm called out because she needs me to reassure her or cover her up or walk her to the bathroom, I may be gone for 2 or 3 minutes, and I really apologize. This will be posted to YouTube, and if you see me gone, just freaking fast forward or something, okay? So I don't see too many people watching right now, so that's good. This will just be recorded for you, and I promise not to waste your time. This is important stuff, and I want to give you all the tools that I have so that you can use them in case anything happens to me. I need to let you know I am sometimes suicidal, only because we are desperately poor at the moment and under a lot of stress, but everyone on the planet is under stress right now. And that's because of the big baddies. They just want us to be under stress. So it's an art form that I recommend for all of you to anchor in your unshakable knowing, anchor into your heart space, and live for that one piece of truth that you really know is true. Even if you have to remind yourself what it is 20 times a day, even if you have to make up a new one every day. There really is a war for the planet, and the war is our minds and our hearts. And it's not just waged through the media. We are self-programming, and we have this wonderful alternative media that we create ourselves. So that's great stuff too. So as you'll see with my other shifting videos, I tell you what you think, how you feel, what you believe, and what you stand for are all very important. And what makes them so important is not that we're going to get the decision makers to change their minds, but because on some level, our reality and our earth is a vibrational phenomenon, a vibrational matrix. So what you hold your heart to and your head to and your intention to is your transmission. And it's your piece of holding up the sky, you could say. So what you do and what you think are your constant broadcasts to the world. So if you can get yourself to a place as a shifter where you are a living representation of the reality that you want to see, and that's what we're going to be writing and creating today. You become that glass tower and a living representation of the world that you want to see and the world that you want to live in. So that's like the very basic of shifting. Okay, so Josie, the lady that I take care of, is coming in now. She's probably going to want a snack. This is what I do for a living, although I haven't been paid for 3 months, but I wanted to keep her at home. So anyway, you guys will get to meet a delightful 94-year-old lady while we're in the middle of our podcast here. And I really want to thank you for watching. I hope I've given you a little bit to chew on while we're dealing with snacks and stuff like that. And I'll probably just kind of keep talking. Oh, let me give you an introduction to my blouse. This is my 9/11 blouse. I found it about a year before 9/11. And of course, I thought it was some sort of weird predictive programming. By the way, this is not a Monarch butterfly. As far as I know, I was not part of Project Monarch. But it was this great like polyester dress that that you can find in a thrift store, and I thought it was so strange that it had the New York skyline on it. So when 9/11 happened a year later, I was all freaking out like, oh my God, my dress, already knew this. But I'm just wearing this now as sort of a commemorative, so that it's like a theme thing. But I don't think that life is so strange that my polyester dress was predictively programmed for 9/11. That is leftovers from your lunch. You want some snacks? No, it's okay. You can try that. It's just a bread crust and a piece of lettuce. Okay, so now you get to have a really exciting adventure with watching me get up, because this is not just any blouse. It's a midriff blouse. So I'm going to go get Josie some cookies and some tea, and you get to watch us. And I'm sorry, just freaking fast forward if it bores the hell out of you. Okay, see you in a moment. So I'm on the radio right now, and so you're coming in for a snack, and I'm going to get you some, okay? I'm actually on the radio, all right? Pretty cool, huh?
Pretty cool is good.
But I know you need a snack, so I'm going to hook you up here, all right?
Thank you, but I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
You know, I'm fortunate to have people like you in my background.
You're very true, and thank you so much. I'm glad you recognize that we're here to love you.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, let's see what I've got for a cup of tea here.
These are easy to eat.
Good, yeah, little animal cookies. Okay, let me put some honey in here. Yeah, we'll be ready to go.
And you're just looking great.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm wearing my commemorative cutoff top from 9/11. Did you know it's 9/11 today?
Oh, I did not.
That 9/11 thing that happened where the World Trade Center got bombed or whatever. So I'm doing a transmission about that because I happen to think that it was a big lie.
It was.
You think so too?
Well, I'm inclined.
Yeah? You don't think a bunch of Muslim guys with box cutters hijacked a jet plane?
No.
Not so much, huh?
It's not easy to deny.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of things were pretty fishy about that story, huh? And then they used it as a great excuse to like get us into a bunch of wars and steal a bunch of people's stuff. Anyway, I blow my nose a lot. That's one of my features.
Yeah.
Hi. Okay, so I'm going to put my headset back on, all right? But you've got your cookies and your tea. And I'm just going to keep talking, okay? Okay, so, hi there. So instead of seeing ourselves as a planet full of hostages, which we basically kind of are, I am part of the force to re-empower us so we can do the very best that we can to create a different outcome. If we let things go the way it is, it'll be like George Orwell's prediction of a jackboot to the head again and again and again. And it's already like that for so many people around the world. Um, I used to be afraid to share this information because I thought I would be ridiculed. How could I prove that it was true? And also, frankly, afraid for my life. But as you know, if you're a Facebook friend of mine, I've decided long ago that if I didn't have the freedom to tell the truth, then I did freedom. And if I didn't have freedom, then it really wasn't worth living. So that kind of keeps me pushing the envelope. And I've never regretted a moment of it, though I have to say I've had some days when I was pretty scared. You get these like kind of prickly feelings once in a while when you're a truther, and like your phone might ring. Now, I am so blessed. I have never been a targeted individual, but I'm fully intending that with this empowerment that I'm giving you today, I probably will become one, and I really don't care because I want you guys to know this stuff. Okay. So with so many innocents being killed in our name by a ruthless cabal with a ridiculous agenda of greed and corruption and violence, I was like, you know, who the hell am I to try and protect my life, my safe little life, when there are innocents being slaughtered every single day? That's why I'm coming out with this information. I don't really know if you're going to find it useful or not. As we go deep today and anchor full 9/11 disclosure, as well as uprooting the cabal, and we'll be doing that in real time, and you'll be able to join me here. Real time meaning whatever real and time are, because you'll be watching this later. You're probably not watching it now, but whatever now you are watching it in is now for you. So we will move along together here. I just ask that you give it your full attention when you are doing it, because I know how many of you are feeling passionate about this. And this, I couldn't wait for everyone else to be ready to get, a panel discussion together. I just thought, you know what, frick it, it's 9/11. Let's just do this today. So the very basis of shifting has to do with that old doctrine of as above, so below, or as within, so without. So what I've noticed that there's something called a paradigm, and each person actually has one, but there do seem to be group phenomenon around paradigms. And our paradigm has been changing, fortunately, to include more of the feminine, the intuitive, the nature-based, the heart-based. All of those things that used to be written off as woo-woo are now really our basic navigational system, and they've been reintroduced as tools that we can have fun with, play with, and use to guide ourselves, and really the very basis of ethics, because you can't really base a holistic ethic on something that's just intellectual. It has to be based on earth rights and on heart sense. And we've discovered many miraculous things about the heart, by the way. The heart is something that we have in common with all the other creatures. It is our way of tuning in to each other's feelings. It's an incredibly stable place, which is odd because our feelings and our emotions do come and go. But when you get to the very core of your emotional body, you'll find that it's really quite stable. Nice. Oh, God. I'm so imperfect. Yay. Okay, well, we got to love it. You know, you're not going to fucking stop me. This is how it's going. I'm sorry, I'm sharing the information I've got. So, your paradigm is what you've written on the templates of your heart. And each of us hold a model of the world and how it works and our place in it. And we tinker with it. I hope you tinker with yours anyway. We can tinker with it. It is not set in stone, thank goodness. And the fact that we can tinker with our paradigm allows us to live many lifetimes within this lifetime and learn lessons and actually make progress without having to die and get a whole new body. again and again and again. You know, it used to be our lifetimes were pretty short. Someone would conk you over the head, you'd come back, you know, you'd like reincarnate, bam, bam, bam. Fortunately, we've become self-programming in this particular few last generations to where we can really get a lot of mileage out of one incarnation. So if you can rearrange the pieces on the inside picture that you hold of the world, you have a very, very good chance of seeing that reflected in the outer world. And I mean, I get into wrestling matches with physical people all the time because I feel that there's a difference between choosing your selected reality and collapsing the other waveforms, i.e. shifting, and simple denial. I don't think that denying the facts or avoiding the stories of what's going on in the world is going to really be very helpful. There are times you may not want to engage that because you're going to get exhausted, but I do believe that there's a happy medium between choosing your reality and denying the other realities. And that's why I call shifters Ninja Gaia warriors, because to be able to really take a stand for truth and look everything in the eye, it takes some major cojones. And I hope that you're going to be those. I know that so many of you who I know do have what it takes to really take a stand. And that's what I'm going to teach you today, is how to anchor your desired intention for the positive timeline for the planet, and to also anchor, checking my notes, your unshakable knowing. In fact, if there was one thing I could leave you with today, it would simply be that. Get your unshakable knowing. Take care of it. Water it. Indulge it. Anchor that in your heart. If you hold that unshakable knowing, which for me is the reality of love and truth, for you it might be something else, but I think we all have common ground because of the shared heart space. I think we all can really have some consensus about that. Okay, Josie needs to be moved. She's bored. She just finished her snack. I'm going to need to get up again, woohoo, and walk her back to the couch, okay? So I'll see you guys. I will be gone for about 4 minutes. Just fast forward, and I'll see you in a sec. All right, are you ready? Okay. You're going to pull yourself up here.
No.
Okay, so are you going to go and take a nap?
Yes, please.
All right. Come on forward.
Are we going like this?
Mm-hmm.
No, I want to go out that door.
Uh-huh.
Oh, God. I hope it's the right one. Is it the right one?
This is the one you want, or it doesn't seem to be moving. Let me see if I can get this door open a little bit. Not sure what's going on. All right. How's that?
This is what I'm going to lay on the couch. Right?
Yep. Okay. All right, I'm back. So it's kind of freaky that you could hang out on a Google Hangout on air for 8 hours. That is, the possibilities are just outrageous. And I have to tell you, they have this option where only people over 18 can watch these things. So I don't know what kind of really interesting uses they're putting some of these to. I don't know if they have like a porn filter for any of this, or if this can be like a new porn format. My mind always goes there. Okay, anyway. Okay, so what I've got to tell you about this picture of the earth or of the world, this picture that we hold of what's possible and what's not possible. That is the paradigm, and how you play with your paradigm and your inner picture is largely going to affect, it has an effect on the outer world. So for instance, in the South, let's talk about racism. In the South, there was this long-held paradigm that black people and white people were not equal, but they could live really near each other and they could work together every day, but there was not a sense of equality. And it wasn't until there was pushback from people who did hold a vision for a sense of equality that that paradigm could change. So it has to do with critical masses, it has to do with tipping points, but every tipping point starts with the individual, and that means you, and that means me. So when we become aware of the fact that we're holding a model of the world that tells us that certain things are givens, like perpetual warfare, justified somehow, or that some things are possible or some things are good ideas but that they'll never happen, that, how do I say, that's the landscape in which we live. And until we can actually change our inner picture of what's possible and actually embody it, all of those wonderful things that we want intellectually, like rights for workers, rights for women, protection of animals, rights for the environment, all those things are great ideas, but there's actually a part of us that gets mileage out of saying those guys don't want it to happen. And what we don't realize is that we're holding a picture that says it can't happen until somebody else changes. And that is the fake dialectic that we've been put into for the last 30 years. And it's the thing that causes liberals, for instance, to have no end of grief. And conservatives have the same problem. Both groups have a consciousness that the others don't want us, they're going to foil us, their interests are different than our interests, they're just crazy and they're never going to change. All of these things just postpone our ability to have the world that we want. So when we get to the biggest level of togetherness and of sanity, of things that make sense, of 1 + 1 = 2, when we get to the level of the win-win-win, which really only exists, actually you can't get to it intellectually. The intellect divides things into win and lose. But you can get to it from the place of the heart, those untried answers, those great, brilliant solutions that are just waiting for us to find them the moment we open our minds to the possibility that they even exist. This world is an amazing place. And it's even more amazing than that. So this is the kind of stuff that I talk about, and I feel so blessed that I created Team Gaia to give me a platform to talk about the stuff that's like the most fascinating stuff in the world. Earth has some super science built into it. You know, we think of Earth and Earth life as being 3D, but actually because of the magic of crystals and the Fibonacci series and sacred geometry, this isn't even a 3D place. This place is made of super geometry. We are participating in up to 12 dimensions at any given time. The science behind what we have here on Earth and what we have in the heart is truly phenomenal. And there really are no limits except for the paradigm that we ourselves need to reprogram in ourselves. Okay, So for many years, I wrestled with the idea of, well, is it ethical to go around changing the template of the planet? And in order to answer whether it's even possible to do so, I have to now tell you that medicine story that I promised before. Basically, in 1989, I took off and I went on the road. I had just finished college and I left with maybe $125 in my pocket from New Mexico, where I was visiting family, to New Orleans. New Mexico, New Orleans. I lived in a lot of new places. Anyway, so that's funny though. I never really thought about New Orleans as being of the news that I've lived in, but here we are. Okay. So from New Mexico to New Orleans, took the train, $125 in my pocket, thought that I would barter and just follow the flow. And I had an interesting time, and I was able to get a job and make all that money last. But I ran out of birth control, got pregnant with a really exceptional human being who was not a participatory parent, unfortunately. And towards the end of 1989, I was able to outwit some psycho killers who were interested in plucking off a pregnant woman and using me, as a satanic sacrifice. So I outwitted them and got myself to the home birthing camp just outside of Austin, where I had been invited to come and have the baby. So I was hunkered down in late 1989 in the woods outside of Austin, and I was, cutting wood, using a wood stove, hauling water, hauling laundry, and just living really close to the land. And because of the Findhorn book, I was able to really empower the fact that I could tune into nature, and that nature and Gaia were full of intelligent wisdom, spirits, and connected to us. So that was a great set of understandings to have when you're living out in nature and expecting a baby. There was a sense of one integrated flow of wholeness, of one being of the earth. And I was just part of it, and it was part of me, and there were spirits in nature, and we were all in this awesome game together. So around November, I kept waiting for my baby to be born, and I would get dressed every day wondering, what should I wear to go into labor? I was very excited. And but there was a sense of suspense, and the neighbors along the trail would be like, hey, so when's that baby coming? I'd be like, hell if I know. I just can't believe I'm going to have to push it out, So we were having fun, because childbirth is one of these things that happens all the time, but it's still really special, and it's super sacred. And at the end, you end up with this brand new human being that you're going to get to know, and they're going to come in with so much heavenly wisdom and essence. Sorry about the twinging here. It's hard to push through and talk about this stuff. Okay, thanks for bearing with me. Good God, I hope somebody watches this video someday. Okay, because this is going to have some good stuff in it. And I'll even tell you where it is when we post it. I'll tell you when we get down to the nitty-gritty here. Okay, so it was late November. I was waiting for my baby. It wasn't coming. I was doing some beadwork and making hats and selling them at the local markets so that I could buy groceries. And that's just how it was. Super, super humble, super close to the earth, and yet really deep and fun. So one morning at 3 a.m., I woke up in my little converted school bus to this sense of incredible presence, what some Christians call the presence of the Holy Spirit. And it was this incredible sense of awakeness and lucidity. And basically, God was paying attention. God, Spirit, was visiting me in my little bus. And so I started to have a dialogue with this sense of knowing, with this intelligence. And the dialogue that went in my head went something like this. Spirit asked, so what's the holdup? What is it that's keeping this child from being able to incarnate, this new spirit, because my daughter is really badass. What is keeping this new spirit from being able to come into the earth plane? And I said, I don't know, let me check. And I sent my consciousness around the earth as if it were like a foam ball covered with spandex fabric. I was just like checking for what was smooth and what was out of place. And I felt a pinprick where the energy was stuck, sort of like a push pin. And where that push pin was the location of the Berlin Wall. And if you recall back to the Berlin Wall, it was sort of the defining characteristic of the Cold world. The Cabal, as we know it now, was using the Cold War to be this massive engine for economic growth and for keeping people in their place and keeping us hypnotized and mesmerized and thinking that we were part of a social dialogue that really wasn't a dialogue at all. It was just us being programmed through television. We think we've got this diverse media, we've got these movies to go see and this TV to watch and personal lives to lead, and it's all just a bunch of crap. Anyway, so the world was really prospering in a really horrible, stupid, and fear-based way from the presence of the Cold War, and the Berlin Wall was like the hinge pin of that entire Cold War reality. And so at that time, I thought, well, that's it. That's where the energy's held up. And I said, okay, God, help me redecorate. Let's remove that Iron Curtain. And yeah, I know that Reagan had said something like a year and a half before, Mr. Gorbachev, take down this wall. And I probably fed him that line. Anyway, it's so silly, though, because here's where it really, really shifted. So what happened was that on my inner paradigm, I saw where the energy was stuck. I saw what it was, and I pulled it. And with the help of God, we rearranged a piece in the Earth cosmic puzzle. Because not 48 hours later, some dude with a sledgehammer got up one morning and just started taking that motherfucker down. Okay, he just started knocking down the Berlin Wall. Now, I have to say, before my session with God was over, I had made a prayer. I'm going to just take that off the hook and put it back on. It's usually junk anyway. If it's the CIA, they'll probably call back again. Anyway, who knows? I've only got one viewer. I'm like too obscure to attract their attention, thank God. Okay. Yay. Okay, so just before our session ended, oh yeah, because God asked me questions. He was like, are you sure this is what needs to happen? Because it's going to make things worse before they get better. And I said, I'm sorry, but that's where the energy's stuck. That's the one piece that needs to move if we're going to evolve on a planetary basis at all. So I was like, dear darling, please help me redecorate. Let's get rid of that Iron Curtain. And then I went to an inner space where I said, oh yeah, and of course this God being was like, well, you'll never be able to take credit for this. And I said, yeah, that's kind of part of the game. You have to make these changes, and your ego doesn't get any benefit from it. And I knew that. That's the price that we pay for being effective, is that you don't get to attach ego to it. Now it's 25 years later, and I'm like, fuck it. Let's teach the people these tools. So just before we ended our conversation, I went into the prayer mode and I started to talk to the people who lived in that area in Eastern Europe. And I said, people, don't be afraid of your government. The government is just a rag doll. It's just a toy. I've given you authorization to dismantle the Berlin Wall, and I hope that you will just go in with full courage and don't let anything distract you. So that was the full thing. And so whoever the dude with the sledgehammer was, and I should probably look that up and see if they ever figured out who that was. Same thing with the dude at Tiananmen Square. Who were those massively courageous individuals? They are the ones who change history, as we know. People who are fed up, basically, and just say, fuck it. And they just take things into their own hands. So I'm not into violence. I believe in destroying thought forms I believe in cutting off food for parasitic extra-dimensional entities, but I am not a violent person. I definitely don't advocate physical realm violence. It doesn't turn me on. It doesn't accomplish anything. As a mom and as a builder, I don't like to see things destroyed. I know how hard it is to build things here in the 3D, and I don't believe in destroying them. But in the war of ideas, I do believe that certain ideas deserve to be extinguished. Ideas of greed and of supremacy and of domination, those all deserve to die a bloody, horrible, gurgling death as far as I'm concerned. But those are thought forms, and people choose thought forms. And yes, thought forms can take a life of their own, but they're only empowered by real living beings. And that's what you and I are. And I never ever advocate death, unfortunately, of any real living beings. But we can certainly apprehend, round them up, and incarcerate them. Then maybe we'll talk about assassinating people for treason. Speaking of which, the people that we're talking about who are treasonous are the ones who are assassinating people willy-nilly just for speaking the truth. So really, people, they get whatever's coming to them. If I were a more courageous person, I would probably issue a fatwa right now against all of the people that were listed on the dual nationalist Zionist people involved in 9/11. That's me coming out and telling you that's who I think did it. But we're going to go inside and we're going to really take a look. Okay, so my lesson number 1 for you today was develop that unshakable knowing. Make it the core of your heart. Make it the one thing that you stand for. Because let's face it, things in the outer world are going to come and go. And situations can be bad, they can be worse, and then they can suddenly get better, and they can suddenly get worse. You don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow. And what you live for is very ephemeral too. Are you living for Friday? Are you living for the next beer? I mean, I can't blame you if you are, because really whatever gets you through the night, I swear. But if you develop your pieces of unshakable knowing and that sense in your heart of who you really are and of your real importance and the importance of your love and truth, your truth. I mean, as a friend of mine says, this earth is a rough neighborhood. You get born in here as pure, spotless soul, and you get roughed up almost frickin' immediately. You know, between when the doctors used to bap you on the butt and when they're taking off your umbilical cord and God forbid they're cutting off your foreskin and giving you frickin' vaccines and things are cold and maybe they let you sit on your mom and nurse. Thank God we've evolved a little bit. Didn't used to be like that. They'd put you under the burger lights and keep you warm in an artificial environment. I mean, this place is frickin' rough. Okay, what was that all about? Oh yeah, so we've been conditioned to not even know who we are and what we truly, truly believe. We've been conditioned out of every single little piece of truth that we hold in our hearts. And the good part is that people like me can come up and retrieve that stuff and give it back to you and say, here's the place where you know truth. You know it in the core of your heart. Here's the place where you know truth. It's called common sense. It's the stuff you always knew that they told you that you didn't. Like Gil Scott-Heron said, you are not insane. You do have a brain. Okay, so that's my job. I'm here to re-empower you, to remind yourself that you have an essence that's really true and strong. And I wanted to remind you, claim that unshakable knowing, because that's the only place that you and I are going to be able to live pretty soon as the cabal gets mighty squirmy and starts fucking up our 3D reality here, there, and everywhere. Okay? All right, so number 2 is to know that this shift stuff is possible, that the world really does rearrange itself almost overnight, and that you can take an active part in it by reprogramming your assumptions about reality and actually tinkering with your inner pictures. So when people assume that rich people are like this or politicians are like that or the world is never going to accept that, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. What you have to do is take the reality that you actually want, for instance, rounding up the cabal, mass arrests, complete, transparent obviousness about the nature of 9/11. Thank you so much to architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth for getting that video and information and billboards up in Times Square and throughout Canada and in other public places. For them, they've decided that the fact that Building 7 fell, for them, that's the smoking gun. Definitely, right? The idea that the towers even collapsed into their own footprint is a smoking gun because of how well they were built. And for me, the fact that there were no airplane wings found at the Pentagon crash, which was really a missile, it appears, directed right at where they were doing a financial investigation of missing trillions of dollars. So that's something I'm going to be anchoring today, and I'm going to be anchoring it with you right now, that the reality of what really happened on 9/11 is going to be so completely transparent, and that the perpetrators will not be protected. They will be arrested. They will be rounded up, and the entire thing declared a sham. Pretty much the entire American government declared a sham. I see a lot of people would really like to have all of our tax money and all of our student loan money returned to us. We have a lot of big hopes and dreams. And those are the kind of things that we need to anchor as being potential truths and really give them a push. Because if we can't take it past being a good idea into the preferred reality, and can you feel the difference between that? You know, you can have an opinion and go, oh God, this should really happen. But can you really move it into the center of your heart-brain awareness and go, this is the truth? That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. That's what shifting is. You move stuff out of the realm of, well, this is my opinion, or this would be a really great idea, and move it in to, this is what must happen. It's like what they call an alignment, right? You're getting it all lined up to where that new idea is front and center, and you are sticking with it. You are empowering it. Okay, so those were our laundry items today. Was that 9/11 become transparent, that the perpetrators of 9/11 be arrested on treason charges and found guilty with no obstructionism. The international community needs to completely line up with this and just declare the entire thing a farce, and every single death that occurred as a result of these lies and this mispolicy, every single death should be considered a war crime and punishable as a murder charge. And I'm talking about the people in Iraq. I'm not just talking about the 3,000 alleged people at the World Trade Center. And I don't know what happened to the planes, so don't ask me. We're not here to to compare theories. All we know is that the thing stinks to high heaven. It needs to be transparent. It needs to be blown wide open now. So we take a breath with that. Okay. Now, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll move us down into the heart space where we will anchor this for the third time. So what we're doing today, we are unshakable knowing, we are 9/11 transparency, and then we are uprooting the cabal. Okay, so the cabal is my shorthand for the financial / vibrational / slavery, prison slavery industry in America, throughout the world, and basically the shorthand would be the New World Order. So we are going to take that New World Order like it's a motherfucking dandelion. Okay, we're going to wrap our hands around that New World Order because it's implanted itself as a hostile alien intruder to our lovely Gaia sphere. It has no business being here. And I generally like dandelions, by the way, and I generally like weeds. And the 94 is making a big-ass fuss in the other room, which is really interesting. But hopefully she'll be able to to take care of herself. She complains kind of loudly. I think she hears what we're doing. Okay, so we're taking that cabal, we're taking that unfriendly, hostile alien force that's got its tendrils deep into our consciousness, not to mention our histories, and we're just going to pull that little sucker out. And I'm going to send it to the sun, because the sun's my favorite incinerator. So we'll also do this on the inner level, but I wanted to give you a graphical sense of what it's like when you take care of this kind of business. And it's something that we want to do on a deliberate group meditation type of level, because it just makes it stronger. It means that many more people are on the same with the same picture, and they've just rearranged the very same thing. So we're going to go down right now with the last few minutes that we have remaining. Deep breath, feeling the space of your heart. See if you can feel your heartbeat. I've been invoking it the entire time that we've been speaking, so hopefully you can feel your heart very vividly now. We're going to move down into that space, the place where our heart and our mind together create our template of reality. And we're going to make these changes one more time on the template version. So on the template version, what we're going to do right now, I'm getting interference from the 94-year-old. Sorry. Yep, you just never know who's around you. You never know who's friend or foe, and everything shifts and changes constantly, of course. Okay, so at the template level, what we're doing now is each and every human being on the planet is going to find and claim their unshakable knowing now. They are going to live and live into their heart's unshakable knowing now. We collapse all alternate waveforms besides that of unshakable knowing. All intellectual protuberances that say, but what if? All of them, we're going to smush them up right now. We don't need them. We're putting them away. Second thing, 9/11. Absolute transparency, completely obvious. International community knows it. There's a call for arrests. The entire cabal, the entire Bush administration, especially Dick Cheney and Henry Kissinger, all of their minions, the dual nationalist Zionists who helped create this, as well as Israel and Mossad. All of it completely exposed, completely exposed. Absolutely obvious that it needs to be prosecuted because of millions of lives that were taken in completely innocent countries. Children and families destroyed for no good reason. Move that to the center of your consciousness and empower it now. Absolute disclosure, absolute transparency.
Oh, I cut myself.
Are you sure? Oh, are you getting into the cookies?
Yeah, I want to.
Okay, one moment.
Did you really cut yourself?
Oh, I don't see any blood. Oh, let me kiss. You're right. You did. You got like a little paper cut. That's no fun.
Oh.
All right, sweetie. Did you want to go sit down?
Mm-hmm. Let's keep that there.
No, I'm just going to feed you some in your bowl here.
Why?
Because that's where you can have them. See, then you don't have to open it up again. You've got some sitting over there. And I'm going to put some more tea in here.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
This is kind of my version of living under house arrest, especially since I haven't been paid in 3 months, and I'm just trying to keep her out of a home and keep her in her own home. When you're 94, they probably shouldn't move you someplace weird. And so I'm doing my best to try and earn a living on the side through donations. Yeah, let's put a Band-Aid on that. Just go ahead and lick it until I can get your Band-Aid for you. Yeah, house arrest. It's pretty awesome though. And now I have this tool to talk with you guys too. I really believe in this shifting tool. I believe that it's the only thing that actually works. You can petition authority, you can create the new, and then we can also do the inner work. And that's why I'm here. Okay. All right, so we're going back to transparency regarding 9/11. If your legs are uncrossed, hands on your knees, taking deep breaths, I want you to help me visualize that the crime of 9/11 as a false flag event created and executed by the Israeli intelligence service, who really pride themselves on having very few ethics and being very effective. So that's my particular theory. If you're into a different theory, let's just go for the common ground and say complete transparency regarding the situation of 9/11, its execution, its planning, and the fact that the sanctions story was a complete lie, throws the entire Bush and Cheney and as well as the Obama administration into disrepute. The fact that a false story has been told to justify wars against millions of people and an entire economic policy based on raping the Middle East, which, as you know, is continuing in PSYOPs, this entire ISIS thing. It's just more PSYOPs to try and get people to okay war. We need to really rewrite that on our inner matrix too. We can no longer okay a world of perpetual warfare. It needs to be shut down. It needs to be shut down now. And that parasitic being, that dandelion thing that benefits from a world based on war and a world based on economic exploitation, those people have no place on earth. They do not belong here. They do not have our best interests in mind, and we are pulling them out now, sending them into the inferno of the sun, holding them there until they are completely consumed. Now we come back to revisualize a world that's based on common sense principles, in which war is treated as a horrific crime against person, property, and soul. Absolutely illegal. Where the over-militarization of a police force is seen as being completely unnecessary and a big boondoggle waste of money. Where the adversarial nature between people and the police can completely afford to relax because there is nothing left to fight. There is no more economic agenda left to promote. The cabal has been completely incinerated in every single dimension attached to this reality, as I decree it now. And even for good measure, I'll pass this entire reality through that ball of the sun. Everything that's true does not get incinerated. Everything that is untrue is incinerated now. So now if I would ask you, the one thing you can do to help me is every time those thought forms that are associated with the cabal and associated with the obfuscation of the truth, just pull those weeds and get rid of them. If you want to fling them into a pit, fling them into lava, fling them into the sun, or maybe you'll find some other really ingenious way of getting rid of them. You can write in the comments below and tell me how you're dealing with this. How easy was it for you to rewrite your own inner matrix? How does it feel? I want to thank you so much for joining me on this journey of discovery. I wanted to give you all of the tools that you will need in case anything happens to me. Anyone who watches this video now knows what shifting is and how to do it. Please feel free to ask me questions. I'm going to keep promoting this. I'm going to keep teaching people how to do this and doing it in real time with you for as long as I have breath in my body, okay? And if anything weird happens to me, then you know that I was bumped off. It's no big deal. Just know, okay, because we know these things. Truth is truth. You deserve to be here. You deserve to live and love and have a world that is worth leaving to your kids and your grandkids, and we need to stop this motherfucking madness now. And I thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully I'm not cutting this off too soon. I hope you feel complete. Come back down into your body and know you do have the right to decide what kind of planet you want to live on. Fill it out and really describe it and then anchor it. You deserve it. We all deserve it. And it's time to end this alien invasion frickin' madness. Thank you.
Well,